Hi, I'm Max. Welcome to Timeline Movie Recap. The film focuses on an Irish man named Syracuse. Syracuse is a fisherman who spends his days out at sea catching fish. One day while fishing, he pulls up his net and unexpectedly finds a girl trapped inside. Initially thinking she's dead, he calls for help, but soon realizes she's alive and quickly frees her from the net. After giving her CPR, the girl wakes up. Syracuse wants to take her to the hospital, but for some reason she refuses and threatens to jump back into the ocean if he tries. When he asks her name, she claims she can't remember, as if she's suffering from amnesia. Sensing her fear of meeting others, Syracuse offers to help her find a safe place. He takes her to an old house by the beach, which used to belong to his parents. After his mother passed away, the house was left abandoned. He invites the nameless girl to stay there temporarily. Soon after, Syracuse goes to pick up his daughter Annie from his ex-wife Maura. Annie suffers from kidney failure and needs regular dialysis. That day, Syracuse is late because he was busy with the girl he found. At the hospital, the doctor checks on Annie and starts her dialysis. Since the process takes a while, the doctor asks Syracuse to read her a story. Unfortunately, he doesn't have a fairy tale book, so he decides to make up a story on the spot. He tells Annie about a fisherman who finds a girl in his net. Syracuse tries to turn his experience into a fairy tale for his daughter. However, since the story is short, Annie becomes curious about what kind of creature the fisherman found. At first, she thinks it's a mermaid, but Syracuse corrects her, saying the girl doesn't have a tail. Then Annie suggests that the girl must be a Selkie, a type of female seal that loses her coat and turns into a human. After the dialysis, Syracuse takes Annie back to Maura. He then returns to the sea, this time bringing the girl with him. He asks her name again, and she tells him to call her Ondine, which means girl from the sea. Soon after, Ondine starts singing, and her voice is enchanting. At that moment, Syracus's fishing net fills up unusually fast, as if Ondine has brought him good luck. Excited about his big catch, Syracuse wants to take Ondine to sell the fish, but she refuses because she doesn't want to meet other people. With no other choice, Syracuse goes alone, and Ondine returns to her home. After selling the catch, Syracuse decides to buy some clothes for Ondine. He even steals some women's underwear out of embarrassment at the store. On his way back, Syracuse runs into Annie, who asks about the fisherman and the Selkie. He tells her that the Selkie sings to lure fish into the nets, as if she's inviting them to be caught. After parting ways, Annie starts to suspect her father's story. She secretly follows him to her grandmother's house. There, she finds something suspicious, as if her father is hiding something. Later, Annie goes to the library and checks out all the books on Selkies. The next day, she returns to her grandmother's house and heads to the back. There, she sees Ondine swimming. Annie approaches her and excitedly says that the creature her father described is real. Believing Selkies have magical powers, Annie asks Ondine to heal her illness. But Ondine, still confused about what's happening, can't help her. Annie also believes that Selkies have a seal coat, which they lose when they come ashore. A Selkie can return to its home if it finds its coat. Additionally, a Selkie can live a normal life for 7 years if they bury their coat on land. Not only that, but Selkies can also find unexpected happiness with humans on land. One day, a mysterious man named Vladish is seen searching along the beach. Meanwhile, Syracuse invites Ondine to fish with him again.
Do you want to come again? You're swimming in my dress.
Just like before, Ondine sings, attracting salmon to the net, proving the myth of her being a Selkie is true. At the same time, a Coast Guard officer becomes suspicious of their boat. Ondine, scared of meeting humans, hides under the boat. When the officer boards their boat, he discovers the salmon, which usually can't be caught with a simple net. Syracuse tries to explain that he's not harming the ocean, but the officers don't believe him and start looking for evidence. While searching, they find Ondine hiding and ask her for a statement. Since nothing seems suspicious, the officers eventually leave. From that moment on, Ondine feels that communicating with humans isn't so bad. Seeing this, Syracuse starts taking Ondine out more and introduces her to Annie. After meeting Annie, the two form a strong emotional bond, spending time together. Like when Ondine teaches Annie how to swim. While teaching Annie to swim, Ondine feels something strange under her feet. She pulls up a bundle covered in seaweed and realizes it's her lost coat. Not wanting anyone to find out, they bury the coat on land and ask Annie to keep it a secret. The next day, Syracuse takes Annie and Ondine to a beach festival. Annie keeps bringing up Selkies, making Ondine anxious, and she finally admits that she's not a Selkie. However, Annie doesn't believe her and decides to prove it. She intentionally jumps into the ocean.
Annie! Come here, baby. Look at you, look at you.
Does she breathe?
After this incident, Maura takes Annie away and doesn't allow Syracuse to see her anymore. Unfortunately, Annie doesn't like living with her mother, especially since Maura is now with another man. Although Maura has full custody, she often neglects Annie, leaving her alone. Since Maura has full custody, Syracuse is heartbroken because he can't see his daughter anymore. After parting with Annie, Ondine mentions that Annie jumped into the water to test her. She concludes that the girl wanted to see how much Ondine would sacrifice for her. It's also clear that Ondine is starting to develop feelings for Syracuse. She tells him she feels comfortable in his home. Syracuse, feeling down, opens up about his dark past. 2 years ago, he was a heavy drinking loser who only worked as a fisherman. One day after returning from the sea, he found his daughter passed out at home while her mother was away. Because of that incident, he was kicked out by his ex-wife. Since then, he decided to quit drinking for the sake of his daughter. After their conversation, it's evident that both of them are developing feelings for each other. Syracuse, caught up in the moment and longing for warmth, ends up sharing an intimate moment with Ondine.
Fisherman. Water.
However, Syracuse is still focused on his daughter and doesn't want to pursue a romantic relationship. Not long after, Syracuse regrets his actions and confesses his sins to a priest at church. After his confession, Vladik suddenly confronts Syracuse, asking about the woman on his boat. Thinking it's not important, Syracuse brushes him off. Later, Syracuse visits Annie during her dialysis, as her mother refuses to accompany her. Seeing his daughter looking down, he asks what's wrong. It turns out Maura has been neglecting Annie. Syracuse gets angry and demands to know where Maura is. He finds out she's out partying with friends at a bar. While Syracuse is away, Vladik finds Syracus's house and searches for Ondine. When Ondine sees another car approaching, she quickly hides. Not finding anyone, Vladik leaves. Soon after, Syracuse returns home to find Ondine missing. Fearing for her safety, he searches for her and finds her hiding under a bridge. At that moment, Syracuse, now believing Ondine is the Selkie being sought by her husband, asks her to make a wish, confident that all Selkie wishes come true. Ondine, however, wishes for Annie to be healed. Meanwhile, Maura is furious because Annie told her father about her troubles. To vent her anger, she drives recklessly, while Vladik, also angry for not finding Ondine, is driving in the opposite direction. They accidentally collide, leaving Annie critically injured in the accident. Syracuse and Ondine, who happen to be passing by, witness the crash and rush to the hospital. Once there, the doctor explains that Annie needs a donor, and the only person who can help is Alex, Maura's new husband. With no other options, Alex sacrifices his life for Annie. The next day, Maura and others scatter Alex's ashes into the sea. Maura feels devastated, blaming Ondine for everything that happened. She asks Syracuse to get rid of Ondine, believing she brings both good and bad luck.
See.
Syracuse, feeling Maura's words hold some truth, reluctantly agrees. The next day, Syracuse takes Ondine to a bird-filled island. At first, Ondine thinks Syracuse wants to spend time with her, but he leaves her there, breaking her heart.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Days go by, and both Syracuse and Annie miss Ondine. One morning, Syracuse hears a song on the TV that sounds just like Ondine's voice. Realizing something, he rushes back to the island and finds Ondine near death. Syracuse begs Ondine to tell him the truth. She reveals that she is actually a human named Joanna, a former convict and drug dealer from Romania. She and her husband were crossing the Irish Sea with a kilogram of heroin when they were caught. Her husband, unable to swim, asked Joanna to take the heroin, but she couldn't handle the rough waters and almost drowned until Syracuse saved her. After hearing Joanna's story, Syracuse decides to take her back. However, when they arrive, Vladish is already there, demanding Joanna hand over the heroin. The tension rises, and Joanna has no choice but to comply. She tries to dig up the spot where she buried her seal coat, but it's gone. Joanna asks Annie to tell her where it is, since only they know. At first, Annie refuses, still believing it's the seal coat and fearing losing Joanna. But Joanna promises she won't leave them. Eventually, Annie admits she moved it to her father's fishing trap. They head to the sea to find it. Once there, Joanna remembers that Vladik can't swim, so she pushes him into the water, leading to his demise. In the end, Joanna marries Syracuse, and they build a happy family together. Although Joanna isn't a Selkie as they thought, the story of a Selkie finding unexpected happiness on land comes true. Enjoyed this video? Let me know in the comments which movie I should cover next, and don't forget to subscribe to support the channel.